don't know where you are now. But do you actually live on your grid served motorway network now? And seriously, why does showing up in person still matter so much for fleets and helping the transition?
Yeah, thanks, Johnny. I read that question earlier, and you basically were politely saying you'll attend the opening of an envelope, which was so don't worry, I'm going to get you back later. But yeah, it's funny. I have been to a lot of events lately because it is the season. But similarly, because of what I'm doing in the HGV space, I'm getting asked a lot to contribute in what we've learned so far. And I've been a bit resistant to events actually in the last 12 months or so because I find them quite frustrating and difficult when you're talking about doing things. But it's materially changed in the last few months, and now we've got, in the HGV space, 12 depots under construction, 7 public sites under construction, and another 80 vehicles on top of the 80 we've already got on the road, ready to land in the next few months. All of a sudden, things are really happening, and the interest has gone exponentially up. And so going to these events is really important. I was at the Road Haulage Association last week talking to a whole room of large skeptics, and people that are worried about how they're going to do this decarbonisation journey. How do they even start, right? And so these projects that we're all involved in, I think, are integral to sharing that information. So I think face to face and being able to do that networking is incredibly valuable. We can all Google stuff, but getting real insight from those that are experienced, whether it be me on a high level project management, but more importantly, probably those hauliers that are actually putting these trucks on the road or vehicles on the road, is a valuable thing to do. And I think we're learning from each other. And these case studies are just, or these demonstrators and these things that people are doing will be the springboard for others to make informed decisions as a result. So it's a really pivotal time, I think, for people to start to really learn. And it's not just that people have started doing this stuff in the last few weeks. We've got fleets out there that have been running various vehicles now for years. And the industry needs to learn from that and make good use of it to help with the decarbonisation journey.
So Sam Clark is still better than ChatGPT. Is that what we're saying here?
Absolutely. You can't buy experience and you can't fake it with Google and AI either. So I am another good reason why it's nice to go to events and be a human being, right? Because in the world of AI, it's, as we've seen from the presentation from James Dewhurst last month, it's slightly terrifying how much fake stuff is out there. And so it's nice to be a real human in a real room for a change.
Yeah, we all existed before the advent of AI as well, didn't we? So it goes for something, doesn't it? What was the biggest thing or the biggest takeaway that you've learned from the HGV charging project that you share at these forums? Is there one thing?
Everything takes longer than you think it's going to, and it costs more. And pioneering is bloody hard work. What else brings to mind? Yeah, I mean,
it's really selling it, Sam. Really selling
it. You said one, Sam. There's 3.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, well, change is hard, right? It's difficult. But the result and factor now, and I'm getting more and more excited by the day. Now things are actually happening in the real world, and I love it again because I'm suddenly got this sort of being able to literally see trucks on the road performing every day and seeing the ranges that they're doing, and it's going up and up and up as they're getting more and more confident. I've got fantastic data sets which I can't share yet, but you can see their range levels are down here to begin with, and they start to go up as they really start to push what these vehicles are capable of doing, and that's really exciting because it's tangible and it's material. So that's the stuff I'm really enjoying at the moment.
Thank you, Sam. Sarah, I understand you're at the summit.
I am.
Going there.
Live event. It is really packed, which is nice. They've kind of done it differently this time. They've got a main kind of presentation room, and then if you want to combine your work with listening, they've got a kind of separate live stream laptop room, which is a very innovative way of ensuring that you can do your day job and be at an event if you wish.
Brilliant. You've always been quite brilliant at lifting other voices and making sure no one gets left behind in the chat. Always the chat master on these webinars if you can't attend and stuff like that. So why is that important to you? Why is diversity and inclusion such a superpower when it comes to building cleaner, stronger fleet community?
I just feel like everybody has a role to play in that ecosystem, and there shouldn't be any sort of snobbery from the end to the other end. Is every single person within there, me with strategy or project deployment. And yesterday I was at a fantastic event hosted by Visa at the Red Bull Innovation Centre in Milton Keynes, and we forget that globally the fleet market is worth $145 trillion. So that's everything from the things that the drivers buy or need to buy through to the amount they spend on fuel. But ultimately, we want to translate that into electric money and make sure people are using cleaner fuels to power their fleets. I think the subject of this webinar is so important as we sit. I've just left a session where we're talking about, never mind the businesses, we're doing really, really well. What about the private fleet? Are they feeling confident enough to make the switch? And we've got Ian Plummer from Auto Trader. We've got some great stats as we're halfway through this decade with 5 years to go. It is a bit of a worry. I'm trying to reach out to the community a lot more. I volunteer at my primary school, at kids' primary school. I've done some stuff at my university ever since. I'm doing one at a different university next week. But it's so important to go and speak to real people and hear what they're worried about and see if there's anything I can do to kind of dispel those myths. I think EV Cafe, I'm really proud of what we do collectively, collaboratively. Everybody is welcome. There's not a day that goes by where somebody doesn't say thank you to us for the way that we've opened our doors, and we leave the nonsense at the door, and we only bring you true hard-earned experience.
Oh, I can't agree with that. We definitely bring the nonsense.
Oh, I should have said the sales patter. We don't allow that.
that gets through the door.
Also, Johnny, are you wearing those creepy Ray-Ban glasses with the lenses on? Just
I am.
So are you filming us being filmed?
So, yeah, I'm not recording, but I can at any time. So
creepy.
On the topic of people and community, JC, you're usually the one pulling us back to the people side of all of this. And so what does community actually mean when the pressure is on right now? And when we're talking, I guess, especially when we're talking about mental health or tough deadlines, pressure, the stress of change, and so much more.
Community means everything, because when things start to go wrong for you personally, working together collaboratively means that you can share the load. And I've seen that with so many different tasks. And we, as Five, have seen that, where we have to lean on each other. We belong to WhatsApp groups about mental health. And there are times when I've got a particular challenge with a client and I'll go to my group of people and say, I'm struggling with this, can anybody help? And they do. And I think that's the trick to this, is that you're never alone. You've always got your colleagues, you've got friends, you've got fleet professionals who are able to support. And the great thing about this is nobody wants us to fail. We all want each other to succeed. So we should be lifting each other up and trying to emulate the sort of passion that we see from Sam, very excited about his EHGV, Sarah being at yet another conference. Lobster, do explain, Sarah.
Well, Ian Thompson just wrote lobster, and I don't understand why.
It's because he can't see the lobster. The lobster's hidden.
Lobster. Oh God.
The lobster on his wall. It's not on his wall anymore.
No, I've had a bit of a move around. Anyway, thank you, Ian. Yeah, so people are absolutely critical, and I've got a little bit of a Kahoot. Don't know if anybody's interested.
Oh, I love a Kahoot. Yeah,
I know. Shall we? Right.
Yes.
Let's see if I can get it working. Right. Let's go there. Let's have some of that. I don't know if sharing sound and optimizing for video really is necessary, but let's do that. Let's do that. Hosting live. I've probably got to go large screen or something. Is that okay, chaps?
That'll do.
Yes,
I can't see the
fabulous.
QR code. Where is it?
Right, start. Let's see.
Oh, I see.
Get ready to join.
Where's the code?
I
There you
don't
go.
know.
You got it? So, scan that QR code and you'll be able to answer the question about, well, something in a minute about fleet decarbonisation. Philippa Reevesy. Lobster! Yes, my lobster's back. Van Man's in the house. Paula Kirby's always makes
I'm
an
enjoying
appearance.
this music as well. This is good.
Tell you, we vibed it up this time. Who else we got? Anybody else joining? Mark, True Charge, Mike. Good to see you.
Mike.
Shish kebab. Oh, well, there we go.
Sheesh.
Anybody else?
Cheers.
Anybody else going to join us? Sass is
Robber.
in the house.
There's a robber in the house.
Oh no! What should we do? Lock up all your valuables, and Bushy's in the house. I'm saying nothing. Noobs, you're here.
Noobs and Bushy.
Oh, Bushy and
Noobs,
Big
Bushy,
Stuff.
Big Stuff.
Leave it.
Right, are we about there? Shall we start this, Kahoot?
I think we
Ready?
need to stop.
Steady.
I'll refer back to the nonsense
Okay.
point.
Look at this. A Kahoot by the EV Cafe. I know. We're so fancy. Are you ready? Hold on to yourselves. Right, it's a poll. What is your biggest focus when moving to EV? You can vote for one of these. So
Aw.
you choose vehicles, energy, people, chargers, software, or something else.
I'm going to go on today's messages. The Charge UK just released a report, and it
Indeed.
has a clue in it.
And I guess we all come at this from different perspectives.
Well,
You
I
know-
guess we've got to think about this in the mindset of fleet.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, I did.
Paul would just say vehicles, vans, the end.
Is it all cars
No,
boring?
no, not true. Not true.
So there we
What did you
go.
say, Paul?
I said people.
I said,
Wow.
Because if you don't get in the mind, you haven't got the job done. It will never start.
And Sarah, what were you going to say?
well, again, off the back of the Charge UK report, it all boils down to the cost of energy. And that's apparently one of the big things
Yeah.
holding back fleet. So,
And it looks like you were the only one who voted for that.
yeah, I'm sad. No one's read it,
So-
obviously.
But it's interesting though. But the cost of energy could be brilliant if home charging works, and as we've seen from AW Energy, we've seen from First Bus. We can get 39 pence per kilowatt hour, so it can be done.
So there we are.
Time's
Sam
up
was
to
left
answer
there
yes,
now.
isn't it?
Yes.
I reckon it is, mate.
Right,
Who's
over
our
to you,
first
Sam.
guest, JB?
I'm dreading this.
Why?
Oh,
As he,
Are you, you're dreading this, are you?
can I mute him? I don't know if I can mute him or not.
You
you
can't.
probably
what-
can, but we'll unmute him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've tried before, doesn't work.
Well, I'm quite good at muting myself, to be honest. Anyway. All right, let's just get your
Not that we've noticed.
where's your image? There it is. Right.
I can see the resemblance.
Oh my
Oh,
He's
goodness.
a dwarf.
I've known this, well, we've known this next guest for years, but nevertheless, I looked him up for an intro and concluded he's either very accomplished or a master of creative writing. All we know is he's head of decarbonisation at Navuna, the founder of the EV Cafe, and we've somehow managed to get him on the show between all his holidays. It's the one and only Mr. Johnny Berry.
Thank you very much,
Aw.
Sam.
Did
So-
you like that, Johnny?
Yeah, thank you. There is so much to discuss when it comes to electrifying fleets, and it's been my life for the last 5 years as well, as you all know. But I want to start off bigger picture here to say that, transport is still the UK's biggest emitter, and let's not forget the air quality associated to it. And vans and trucks are a big chunk of that. And those 2035 deadlines that we know are coming at us fast. I think I heard a stat the other month that we're closer to 2050 than we are closer to 2000. So no new petrol, diesel vans, and HEVs not far behind. I think the good news is, trying to start off positive here, it's been quite negative this morning already. Although it is still small numbers, electric van registrations are up more than 50% on last year. I think it was something like 70% in June or July. There are nearly 40 models to choose from now. I think Paul's going to correct me at any point here.
That's pretty good.
The early adopters are actually proving that it works and that running costs can beat diesel in some scenarios. Recently, back in July, we heard about the new funding available. So like plug-in van grant, a truck grant extended through to 2027. So that's up to £2,500 for small vans, 5,000 for large vans, and 25,000 for the larger trucks. So I guess what that really says here is that they do have the certainty that they've been asking for, but I think what's more important, that there's a clear signal from the government here that they're going to continue to invest, and now is the right time to plan and invest. But that's where the positivity stops, I'm afraid, because if we're being honest, we've still got a long way to go. Seeing as fewer than 2% of vans and trucks on the UK roads are electric. So this is the moment right now to focus, be practical, and try to scale things up, really. So what's holding fleets back? Well, I speak to fleet operators almost daily, and the challenges come up time and time again. one big thing that I probably haven't accounted for, but is, Paul, you're absolutely right, which is people. You know, you need the people on board in the company across the board. You need them from legal, procurement, fleet and operations. You need them to be less laggards and more wanting to get up to the job, you know. But in terms of like practicality reasons, I would say the first one up is obviously charging. So if your vehicles can't charge at a home or a depot environment, lots of fleets are relying on public charging networks. And during the Cenex conference last week, Stellantis stood up and talked about, they quoted 277 minutes of downtime associated to DC charging. That's nearly 4.5 hours parked up instead of working. So, you know, and if you extrapolate that across a large fleet, it's a large amount of downtime, large amount of time where they're not making money for the company. And usually that's the revenue stream, right? The vehicles are their revenue stream, the part and blood. And if you do have a depot, the issue is usually related to capex or grid constraints, amongst other things, but we can usually get them done. It does take time, like permissions, and the list goes on. But grid upgrades and civils can be eye-watering. It can be such a daunting task. And we've had fleets quoted years to wait for the power required. So I think that this just needs to be treated as real critical infrastructure to get things going. And then there's the vehicle fit. For some duty cycles, heavier trucks or conversions or what they're towing or long shift work, there isn't a perfect zero emission solution out there. And I know that some fleets are more willing to change their operation to make it work. And to be honest, the industry is changing quite quickly. You know, we are seeing the vehicles, more and more vehicles come to the market. The fact that I can say that we've got 40, you know, it was only a few years ago when we started this. We had a handful. Most of them I was sporting the Renault ZE range, you know, the Renault Zoe van and the Master ZE that would barely do 50 miles. I know what your thoughts were on that, Sam. But while we're at it, we also just need to fix the basics as well. You know, 20% VAT on public charging versus 5% on the home just makes no sense, especially for those fleets that are, you know, rely on public charging. That's eating straight into their margin, which is otherwise already very expensive by comparison to a home. So anyway, I could talk all day about the challenges or the concerns that fleets have. But I will say that how the best fleets are tackling this right now, the fleets that are getting this right are doing a few things consistently well. So the first thing is obviously the people piece, Paul. I'll keep going back to that. You get the people on board, bring them all together. And then start with data. So it's a fairly easy one because most of these do have data, you know, so whether that's mileage, routes, idle times, dwell times, know the facts before you even think about buying a single EV. And then the second bit is pilot and learn, you know, just a handful of vehicles in your route and in your operations. Maybe the easiest routes will teach you more than 100 PowerPoints or 1,000 spreadsheets or whatever it might be. And then I always go back to this, choose your partners carefully. Cheapest isn't always the best. You need to look, the ones that are successful, look for those that are interoperable, that have a diverse product range. You know, don't rely just on charging. It is a tough market. Uptime, product guarantees and support, so important because, you know, it's a high cost up front. You don't want to do it again in a few years' time. And then we've talked about people, but I always say plan charging first, not last. If the charging doesn't work in its operations, the whole plan just falls apart. So finally, I just want to say, so I probably overrun already, probably why I want to say I'm optimistic. And I'd say I'm more optimistic from July than I have been ever before. And that's mainly because the government support is finally catching up. So I've already talked about the vehicle side, but depot charging grants are unlocking projects that were stuck for years, absolutely years. So we at Navuna, personally, we're supporting 11 massive companies here in the UK, make up for a large proportion of the vehicles that are on the road. So to go through that process, and we'll know if that's been successful by the 26th of November when the deadline comes round or the money's exhausted. But this actually has been the catalyst for their transition. It has been the stuff that's completely unlocked the projects. You know, I was talking to a fleet a month before saying, I've only got about a couple of £100,000 of capex that I can actually spend on charging infrastructure, but I've got thousands that I need to do. Let's just turn that into £1 million worth of capex overnight, this depot charging fund. So it's made a massive difference in that one fleet in particular. And what we're doing could mean, if we're successful, 600 DC chargers, privately DC chargers installed by the end of this financial year, which we can all imagine can cater for a lot of the LCVs. That's really going to make a massive, massive impact, you know, as does the grants towards the vehicles. So the other things that I'd say that why I'm being optimistic, because we are seeing, you know, Paul, thanks to you and the rest of the EV Cafe team, we're seeing the communications and the acknowledgement of good technology that's coming out and moving fast, you know, with the new products and new entries to the market. And all of these are sporting really good range, payload, and total cost of head ownership. You know, we are seeing in some cases heading in the right direction. But most importantly, the things that do work is when collaboration grows. So, you know, we talked a lot this year about fleet sharing depot chargers, new software joining up networks, being interoperable, and suppliers actually talking to each other for the first time this year. So whilst we still have to close that charging productivity gap, get my words out, the grants get the vehicles on the road. What keeps them moving is reliable, affordable charging in a depot, at home, or a public network that we can all access. Because let's face it, if the wheels aren't turning, the vehicles aren't earning, and therefore they're just not going to transition. So my challenge to everyone is just don't wait. Use the data you already have. Put your first chargers in, trial a few vehicles, win over the hearts and minds, learn quickly, and share what works internally with your peers and the supply chain, with us, with the industry. And I'm not going to say the transition is easy. It isn't. It is happening. And for those that will start now, the ones that stay competitive when 2035 arrives, or when they go to tender for their bid for their new custom. That's enough from me anyway. Setting the scene. I'm looking forward to hearing from the others guests today, Tom and Rosario, and of course you guys. So yeah, thank you.
Johnny.
Well done, Jason.
Well done, JB. I have watched you deliver a similar presentation like that to a room of fleet operators at your Newbury office, and I really do think you don't take compliments well, Johnny, I know, but you do deserve the praise. You're really good at explaining the things, and Rob Anderson completely agrees with you. Get the charging infrastructure in place first and prove that cost model is very clever. But I want to ask you, because the big fleet event thing I went to yesterday, thinking about actually Road Transport Expo, I learned if you're making a 1% profit margin, you're doing well, particularly in HGV related fleet operations. Surely there must be a way to help them with that margin, particularly like even just yesterday, I put something on LinkedIn about the fact that on the same car park, you could pay between 79p with app benefit all the way through to 39p without app benefit. But obviously that's the Tesla network. How can we support particularly LCV fleet? I'm seeing so many small vans on these public chargers paying between sort of 69 and 89 pence. Their company's just paying for that. They're just going for it. And OVO is presenting right now with their fleet card solution. What do you think we could do to help with that bottom line margin, aside out and about, not at depot?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think I said earlier about collaboration being key. There's a lot of good private networks out there. I think there was a white paper concluded last year by Charge UK, which suggests that there's circa 1 million charge points out there, and we only get to see visibility of circa 10% of that. So I think the main focus there is you know, what we've seen in the trials with some of our fleets with bus depots and sharing networks, that's substantially reduced the cost of kilowatt hours and given them a bit more certainty in terms of access. It is a hard one because you've got the fleet team wanting to do this, and you've got the business that don't want to lose the money or spend the money or have the budget to do it. And we're seeing that balance all the time. And so one of the answers is, what can we do with the existing networks, really? Or I likened it to a presentation delivered by one of the CPOs that says that actually, you know, even though we have got a good network and, you know, arguably a competitive price across the industry, we're seeing that you know, being able to provide grid services is a key element here. You know, stabilizing the grid, being compensated for it, and then passing on the value to the fleets or the consumer using that charger. So lots of innovative ways of reducing the costs and thus reducing, you know, the cost of fuels and improving the TCO, I guess.
I think Power's up for an award at the EVs next week. I'm not going, but wishing them luck for that. And that was for their depot sharing innovation. I can't remember who the partners were, but yeah. let's see how they get on. I love what Neil's doing with Power. I think it's what's needed right now. More of that. More awesome.
just engaging with these companies that are doing that. I think they're up for a few awards, but yeah.
Have we got time for another question? Because I've got one in the Q&A box, which I'd like to ask, if that's possible. Mike Seymour from Trueform Charge asks, if you had to decide on which segment to concentrate on with a view to supplying EV infrastructure and hardware, would you bark up the e-bus tree or the eHGV tree, both newish to the marketplace and show massive growth potential? Which one would you go after, JB?
Probably one for Sam, this question, but I mean, we've got personally what we're doing with Navuna. I can speak from my own experience right now, is that we are steadfast focused on commercial vehicles, not necessarily big trucks, HGVs or bus. I know that is a real key focus here, but we've still got a long bit of work to do there, a lot of work to do there. But look, we need to focus in all areas, right? That's the thing. And I think HGVs and buses, when it comes to DC charging, ultimately, if you're going to put charging in or provide equipment there, I want everyone to think about how, again, going back to this collaboration piece, how it can be shared with local communities, local bus operators or local HGVs and stuff like that. And Sam, I'd like to just ask you about the Sunderland and how they're sharing the network in this, because that's a real key bit one trying to mention there. If you've anything to share there.
That is, in its own right, could have been an Innovate UK project, and it's only about 5% of what we're doing. But and to answer the question, John, as well, before I come to that, Johnny, I think I would take slight issue to say that the bus market is a bit ahead, right? There's a lot already been out there, which is really, really positive. That is demonstrating that the market is already well and truly underway in the bus market for electrification, and HGVs is inevitably only just begun. So I'm not saying this because I'm biased, but I think that the truck market is absolutely about to kick off, and it is reasonably nascent still. So the opportunities there will be in abundance for those that see the opportunities coming down the track. So if I was a betting man, I would probably put my emphasis on in the HGV market, because it will go big, a bit like the EVs generally. It's just a case of when, and we're at that. I'm spending the next 9 months of my time assessing the market, not just for seeing a project through, but trying to answer that question: when and where do we start to invest? Because we know it's coming. It's just a case of when. But it's an exciting area. And Johnny, the Sunderland plant's fantastic because it's Nissan. It's in the middle of Nissan's factory, and they've got 3 hauliers: Houston Logistics, Ferguson Transport, and BCA, British Car Auctions, all using that site every single day for movements of actual cars that are built to the port, as well as moving things around locally and up and down the country. So it's a great case study of multiple different companies collaborating together, and we are now looking at how we can use that site for others to come and use it as well, during lower utilization points throughout the 24-hour cycle. So things like that are emerging, which are demonstrating collaboration in anger, which is great. So it's still early days with that one. We've only been live for a couple of months, but it's already attracted quite a lot of attention. And the more and more of that comes from us and others, the more people will learn from it and hopefully make informed decisions as a result.
I think it's about time to welcome on our next guest, Sam.
It is indeed, isn't it?
Well done, Johnny.
Thank you, Johnny. And it is Tom's time to come onto camera. There we are. There's your.
Yes. Well done.
There's your. Don't worry, I haven't butchered your picture, Tom. that was just for Johnny. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so Tom Pearson, Commercial Director at CPD, functional lead for sales, marketing, HR, IT, procurement, and more latterly, but potentially most importantly, and I agree, sustainability. Non-exec board member of Hire Association Europe, chairperson for the VBRA. You're going to have to tell me what that stands for. Commercial Vehicle Bodybuilders and Converters Group, and proud card-carrying member of the EV Café. Through the development of an off-grid workshop, he is looking to demonstrate how cost-effective true sustainability can be. Now, the fun fact, Tom, I'm going to put fun in inverted commas because I'm not sure. You are a qualified steam locomotive driver. No,
yeah, counter to this, isn't it? I can burn some coal in the background, but yeah.
Yes,
having just been on a steam engine, it was fun. So it's a fun fact.
Funner,
right, we'll
please get your language
All right,
correct.
Sarah, well done.
Tom, thanks for joining us.
No, my pleasure. Thank you.
Tom, we were lucky enough, Paul and I, to come and visit you and the brilliant team at CPD Bodies. And I was really taken by your strategic move to renewable energy and the investment that you're putting in to decarbonize your energy storage and use for your site and for your customers. It's just phenomenal. Can you explain what it is you're doing there?
Yeah, so there's a couple of steps to that now, John. We've probably evolved quite significantly from where we were when you came to site. So yeah, I know. First step for us was about how do we review our own practices. So I'll come on to kind of customer behaviour in a little bit and what we're seeing in terms of that transition and some of our statistics from last year, because I think they're worth talking about. And Johnny's made some really pertinent points around, you know, perceptions and infrastructure, etc. that I've been lucky enough for the SMT to report on recently, so it'd be good to segue into some of that if we've got some time. But in terms of us, we were looking at how do we launch our ESG strategy? What are the core fundamentals and deliverables within that? Beyond kind of ticking a box and going through scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, which are clearly in scope, for want of a better word, excuse the pun, and we're on with that element of it. What we decided to do was really kind of challenge the market, really kind of challenge ourselves to produce something that maybe hasn't been done but can be done. So we're very much still in process of putting up final workshop in the last available space we've got on our 8-acre site right now, to produce a workshop that's dedicated to EV vehicle production, that will be powered solely off grid. So solar panels on the roof, battery electric storage, that trickle charge 24/7. We only work 4 days a week out of that workshop, so we've got a day in hand. And that's very much in the process of going up. And the way we've managed to do that, because the Johnny mentioned as well, this kind of perception of some barriers in terms of cost to moving to this kind of model. So we've looked at solar as a service rather than outright capex cost to allow us to do that, which has made it infinitely more viable for us as a relatively medium-sized organisation. That will all be live by Christmas this year. And in place, the next step for us then is to put EV charging infrastructure in, both for ourselves, but for customers' vehicles, that again should be fed by that solar panel array. It should be significant enough across that workshop and rest of site to allow us to do that and act off grid. To my knowledge, it would be the first of its kind in terms of bodybuilders, and having that complete off grid facility. So it's something we're particularly excited about and really keen to see come to fruition. I think the second piece to that, which is an evolution that we didn't discuss when you were up, is we've also gone through that process of understanding, well, how do we bulk buy energy in advance? So for the rest of our facility that doesn't run off solar panels, and we are expanding that solar panel array as well, by the way. How do we bulk buy energy up front to get greatest discount, but also make sure that it's done in the cleanest possible way? Again, committing to green energy solutions to fuel that. So, yeah, a few moving parts in the last few months, and quite an accelerated strategy, as you say, from the last kind of 15 months in role, but absolutely worthwhile for us as an individual business. And I've said to this audience before, you know, we absolutely challenge others to do the same and want to work collaboratively to that same effect. This isn't about, you know, we're king of the castle, tongues out, there you go. It's right, okay, we're doing it, we're going through that process. There's been some learns through that journey. We're more than happy to help others accelerate on that journey too, because it's the right thing to do.
Where does a depot start? A smaller fleet, got a small yard. Where do they start in that journey to get to renewable energy, battery storage, and clean fleet?
I think, you know, the two things that we've done are really accessible. They're not something that has required specific knowledge from me to take to market. From a bulk buy of energy perspective, we used a broker, and we understood, right, well, what is best price point for us? And there's some cost saving in there for sure. But actually, what are the best energy solutions versus our current use to take advantage of? The second piece in terms of solar was a little bit of us doing some digging around, and we went through that whole capex route and what's that going to look like. I think it's about, you know, finding the right partner in that and understanding what is the right solution. It's actually really easy to spend a small amount of capex for a relatively big impact. And if you work with somebody who can build solar as a service in a relatively modular way, you can expand that at your rate of growth and expansion and as suits you. The way that we've done it, we've made a long-term commitment because we're landowners of the property and workshop that we're on. So a little bit of a different scenario to some of those smaller businesses who maybe got landlords. But we made a 20-year commitment on solar for that prime reason. I think that the challenge around sites that aren't self-owned and do have landlords is about speaking to the landlord and helping them to understand that there is an intrinsic value in that investment, not just for the incumbent business, but hopefully those businesses outgrow where they are for the next incumbent coming onto that property too.
And very briefly, Tom, there'll be people out there who have yet to discover the magic of CPD bodies. What do you do?
Yeah, so we are a commercial vehicle converter, now up to 4.25 tonne with the onset of electric vehicles, electric LCV, predominantly building tipper, Luton and drop sides. We are sole location up in the northeast, but we service the whole of the UK. We do circa 6,000 conversions a year. We also retail chassis and van products. We sell about 500 vehicles a year. And outside of Ford's immediate dealer network, we are probably the largest stockholder and dealer of Ford products in the UK right now from an LCV perspective.
Wow. Pablo, you got a question?
I have. I'm really curious, Tom, and I'm sure you have a relatively quick answer. What is the biggest question that's coming to you from operators? Operators that are coming to you for a solution. What is the biggest question that you're getting around sustainability, obviously?
So the biggest one is clearly related to the vehicles. So we talk about 4Ps when we speak to customers. We talk about the right product and ensuring that they've got something that will do the job for them. We talk about price point. We talk about the pace at which we can build it, but most critically for the majority of our customers is actually payload. It's understanding that through that transition, how do we ensure that we get as close to or improve payloads? So one of the things we've done in collaboration with our customers is help develop a body that actually gives roughly 30 kilograms extra payload compared to a standard conversion across all three, so looters, tippers and drop sides. Clearly we use more of an aluminium type products than steel to help achieve that. But that payload is absolutely critical when we're asking, it's not us, when it's been asked of operators to change ultimately their model. There was a comment about, earlier here about people who run double shifts and run those vehicles, and absolutely right. We're seeing logistics as a sector significantly impacted because there isn't an opportunity to double run using electric or electric infrastructure either. There has to be an adjustment in terms of either the people that come into that organisation or the vehicles that have been used.
Brilliant. Yeah, it makes sense. And payload has been a criticism of moving to electric, but it sounds like you've solved that challenge.
Yeah, but we're trying. We're absolutely trying, and that will continue to evolve. Again, it's been touched on today. I think Johnny's touched on it. Sam certainly touched on it with kind of the evolution of EHGV as well. As we move to the next 5 years, we know how quickly technology can move. We know that the batteries will continue to improve, and whether that's lighter weight, whether that's more capacity. I think the biggest perception challenge, and I think I caveat this by saying endpoint charging is absolutely crucial. So we talk about there actually been a growing infrastructure. SMMT report there's about 88,000 public charge points available for users across the UK. But actually they are regular car charging points. So you can't fit a van in to charge it. We've also got this piece about charge points being down. You certainly can't fit an HGV in there to charge really quickly for 45 minutes. And we know that the charge times are considerably longer. So there's still a lot of challenge in terms of that midpoint infrastructure, but endpoint is absolutely crucial. Continued investment in endpoint infrastructure, whether that's a receiving depot, a distributing depot, whether that's home charging for those that can accommodate it. For those of us that travel frequently, it continues to be hotel infrastructure, for example, and making sure that there are charge points. And I think most of us could be convinced to change vehicle if we had confidence that that wider network was more established than it is today.
Great. Thanks for that. I guess we have to go to our next guest.
Yes, time is certainly going on.
Thank you, Tom.
Over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Right, now the man with the coolest name in the room today, I think it's fair to say.
I've already been
Rosario
on, Sam.
Huh?
I've already been on.
Johnny.
Not you, Barry.
Strawberry doesn't count, but Rosario Estarace is definitely the coolest name today. He is someone we've known for many, many years, an EV charging specialist, and now at Drax EV, supporting fleet operations on their decarbonisation journey. He's worked at Drax for nearly 2 years and has been in industry for over 11 years. Fun fact, Rosario has spent 24 hours stuck in a Kazakh airport. It might have been jet lag or due to the local vodka. Now, I don't think that we can move on from this until you answer the question of which one it was, or was it both?
If I want to lie, it was both. If I want to be truthful, it was definitely the Kazakh vodka.
So basically, you got drunk on Mystery Flight.
Yes.
Excellent.
Now, Rosario, you're of Italian heritage, so Sriracha, presumably.
Yeah, either or in the UK works, but yes, Sriracha is the Italian.
Don't let him off the hook.
Shame, Sam Clark. Dear, dear, dear. Not doing his research.
I was just saying it like you said it earlier, Paul. So
Nice, Sam.
thank you.
Okay, baby.
Right, Rosario, come on then. Drax electric vehicles. Tell us what you got.
So a little bit about us, I guess. Drax is a FTSE 250 company. We are the largest renewable energy producer here in the UK, producing about 10% of the UK's renewable power. We're part of the national critical infrastructure. So when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining, we turn on our assets to support the grid to keep the lights on. We also support UK businesses with the supply of renewable electricity. And then provide ancillary services as well, such as asset optimization and flex services as well, which we'll sort of mention in a bit. And then my team supports UK organisations with all of their fleet EV charging infrastructure requirements. So anything from consultation, getting an understanding of requirements for the fleet, looking at the data that Johnny kind of mentioned earlier to kind of support and try and find the right solution for that client's needs, through to electrical site surveys, installation, service and maintenance contracts with specific SLAs. I think Johnny made a really good point earlier in relation to our suppliers listening to fleets. We do actually give our fleet clients the opportunity to actually specify the type of SLAs that they require in order to make sure that that service and maintenance piece fits and the vehicles are out and on the road as quickly as is humanly possible, generating that revenue. And then through to software support, back office reporting, and payment solutions if they're needed as well.
And it kind of feels, Rosario, that is really intrinsic to this building cleaner fleets, isn't it? And have you got a good example of a customer that you've helped and how you helped them in that process of building a cleaner fleet?
So I think the way we see it is that we want to be the decarbonisation partner for our clients. And so we look at not just EV charging infrastructure, although that's where I specialise, but we try to support them with the renewable power aspect, which is obviously really, really important, through to then looking at how can we support them with making their fleet operations greener and more cost effective, which is where the kind of asset optimization and flex services comes into play. So we've got a number of organisations that we've worked with. I guess SES Water is kind of one that we've been working with since 2021, I believe. So we went through that data with them and looked at the current petrol diesel vehicles that they had on their fleet at that time. They are a commercial fleet operator. So we dug into the data, provided them with options for the types of vehicles that they could actually switch to, which vehicles they could switch to electric, and then reporting through to this is the type of charging infrastructure that would suit your needs across the 12 sites that they're operating from. So, each site has its own EV charging infrastructure specific to the needs of the fleet that is based from or working from that site. Yeah, we're still working with them now. I have monthly meetings with them to kind of get an understanding of, is the fleet growing? The infrastructure is now a little bit on the older side, shall we say, kind of coming towards the end of their warranty. So just keeping in contact with them and looking after them and making sure that their infrastructure is right for their needs now, and also as their fleet expands.
Seems great that you have that software that gives you the visibility, so that I guess you can report back on where the biggest challenges are and where they perhaps need to increase utilization of those assets.
Yeah, so in that one example, they've actually opened up their EV charging infrastructure to their staff to kind of use as well, because the fleet isn't based there all day long. So it's actually generating revenue, which I know, because we can see the reporting is actually covering the overheads of running that infrastructure. So it's covering all of the service and maintenance costs, and any kind of additional parts that kind of like may be required. So from an operational perspective, yeah, the kind of the visibility of what is happening on that site is really key to them. And obviously, as wider fleet operators, that's kind of vital to making sure that the vehicles are on the road generating that revenue, that they're not just parked up there waiting to get the charge that they should have got the night before, but hasn't, because the EV charger has gone down.
For me, it feels like this is just emphasizing a point that we've all made around the charger sharing, or thinking beyond just plugging in my vehicle to get energy into it, but to sort of cover off the investment of infrastructure through charger sharing, providing a service for staff, doing all kinds of things. But we need that software, we need that insight, which you guys at Drax bring, which is brilliant, and it does kind of give me confidence. And I think this is the kind of message that we need to get out to the wider audience, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It is confidence, and it's learning from those that have done it previously. Part of the conversation that's been going on this morning is in relation to, just get out there, do a trial site. But actually, even before that, have a conversation with those that have already done it before you, and speak to organisations like mine, but there are many others out there, in order to get an understanding, a proper understanding of what is actually achievable, because it actually might be a lot more straightforward than you kind of thought initially. It doesn't all have to be really fast DC, rapid charging. It can be AC charging overnight, which is a hell of a lot less expensive to install, but actually from an electricity cost perspective, actually it probably works out a lot cheaper as well, because you're not
Fantastic.
pulling a lot of power all at the same time.
Great
Thank
job,
you as
Rosario.
well.
JB.
I'd just like to invite Tom back on for the last 5 minutes of questions, and then JC, we've got a couple of questions in the
Yeah,
Q&A.
we do. Good job, you guys. Right, okay, pin back your ear rolls, because these questions are broadly similar, and it's asking how we get stuff done and changed. Martin Schaefer-Barthold asked, as local authorities work with charge point operators to roll out EV, who is best placed to feed in considerations for commercial vehicles sharing that infrastructure with the public? Any thoughts? Anybody? Finger in the air like you just don't care?
I think the AFP is a great shout. They're perfectly placed to give that coordinated voice in the fleet world. But I'd say it's not just the AFP. I think companies like Navuna obviously can play a big part too. Or because we hold direct relationships with hundreds of fleets and understand the operational detail. We talk about 12 times vehicle mix, charging patterns. And I also think big fleets need to lean in more directly. So it's sort of like a combination, really. AFP representing the collective voice, and partners like us sharing real world insights from customers and customers directly.
Yeah,
Lean,
Johnny,
you say-
sorry, can I just add to that? In the BVRLA did put out some messaging recently to all local authorities, and Martin Schaefer Barthold, I think is Solihull, from memory. But the messaging going out to them to just reach out to local fleets. And I think there is an element of opportunity for engagement, which is often bemoaned as not good enough. But Martin's clearly wanting to get that feedback, and I think if the AFP, the BVRLA, or lease co's like Navuna, Leaseplan, or not Leaseplan anymore, is it Avons, Lex, and so on like that, that have a lot of fleets that they work with. I think those are the ways to engage with local fleets and get feedback and make them aware, make the fleets aware that this infrastructure could be shared and used.
Yeah, I think also it's worth noting that he didn't say fleets, he said commercial vehicles. So perhaps that's something that needs to be delineated as well, because obviously there's lots of car-related fleets which should be able to work in harmony with the local infrastructure. But commercial vehicles, on the other hand, well, when they start to get a little bit bigger, as to Tom's previous point, then they don't fit. So that is the question was around commercial vehicles. So I think that is actually a separate entity and something that local authorities should be working together to find locations that might not even be in their authority, but actually is more strategically placed for a number of different local authorities to be able to feed into and have hubs that are designed for commercial vehicles and leave the other infrastructure for a different use case.
And similarly, with the HGV hubs, I know SMMT are lobbying direct to government for same support from a commercial vehicle perspective. And it's got to be driven, multiple ways, hasn't it? One is, to your point, Paul, around collaboration at a local business level. And I think there is apprehension around, who's got access to my site at what time and how do we do that safely and in the right way. And there will be some health and safety boxes to kind of tick along the way to make sure that that is done correctly. But let's start local. Let's start that local collaboration and try some of these things. And then the other effort, of course, comes top down through government, through councils, and creating those shared spaces. But as we've seen before, that will take time to develop before they land.
There's a couple of points I want to just pick up from the chat, if I may. Tracy Kearns from the Welsh Government has said that her sound's gone wonky and she can't get it back. But thanks to everyone for another enlightening and funner EV Cafe. That's lovely. And that speaks directly to the guests. Except Johnny, of course. And then Ian Thompson. I was chatting with a couple of people over in Germany last week and heard about a business park where the companies actually spoke to each other and figured out that they had a common need for decent charging. They got together, put in something like 4 350 kilowatt and 6 150 kilowatt chargers and employed someone between them to make sure this new shared facility was working, used well, and someone who could drive any vehicle in their various fleets could come and go and charge. Isn't that
genius?
Isn't it just? Oh, John, I was out last night with someone from Germany, Finland, Denmark, Holland. Everyone thinks we're stupid in the UK because we don't talk to each other. I'm serious. Yeah. I was like, leave me alone.
But we talk, and I suppose, Tom, Rosario, Johnny, our voices are there, do matter. Tom, you work on representative groups that have a big voice. It's about us all taking that opportunity, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. And like you say, it's speaking loud enough to be heard, right? We know there are conflicting messages coming all over the place, and it's why I talk about being a proud card-carrying member of this community now, because we know the louder we shout, the more likely we are to get heard, which is great.
Good on you.
Well, it is 1 o'clock. So it's a wrap for today. Huge thanks to our brilliant guests, and let's be honest, probably the best guest lineup we've ever had.
Who wrote that script?
And of course, a massive thanks to our sponsors again for making this all possible. So I'm talking over you purposely here.
Yes. Very good.
I'll see you at the next one. Until then, keep bringing people with you, and maybe a few more guests as good as today.
Come and see us at Fleet Mobility Live. There is still one pod left if you want to partner with us and show, but there is a great time. We're going to record some podcasts. It's going to be great. Come and join us. Fleet Mobility Live. You can register online through, I think we've got it on our website somewhere. So
put it in the chat,
go do it.
See you all soon.
Bye.
Adios.
Bye.
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 See you later. Paul.
Don't take the bait. Don't take the bait.
Mistimed it.
I want to ask you something, Paul.